The Celestial War is the oldest and most foundational conflict in the Marvel Universe, an ancient event that predates even the multiverse itself. In the beginning, there was only the first firmament, the original sentient universe, perfect, eternal, and alone. From its divine essence came the aspirants, loyal cosmic beings who worship their creator. But from among them emerged a rebellious faction, colorful, powerful entities who crave change, evolution, in the chaotic cycle of life and death. These were the Celestials. To the first firmament, their desire for transformation was an act of betrayal. What followed was a war not just of might, but of meaning, order versus progress, stasis versus growth. The aspirants, wielding godlike weapons, including the fearsome god-killer armor, clashed with the Celestials in a war that shook the very core of existence. But the final blow didn't come from the Celestials. It came when the aspirants themselves fell into civil war over how to use their devastating power. Seizing the opportunity, the Celestials struck, shattering the first firmament into fragments. From this destruction came something entirely new, the birth of the second cosmos and the creation of the multiverse. The Celestials became the architects of their new reality, and in doing so, they created a new class of caretakers, the Omegas, later known as the Beyonders, to safeguard the balance of infinite realms. Though the Celestials claimed victory, the war's scars ran deep. The wounded first firmament did not die, it merely vanished, lurking in the cosmic shadows, waiting for its return. The echoes of this rebellion shaped the destiny of all future worlds. The Celestial War was not just the dawn of creation, it was proof that even the divine can fracture, and that all perfection, no matter how absolute, eventually gives way to change. After falling in love with death, the cosmic embodiment herself, Thanos seeks the ultimate tribute, universal extinction. To achieve this, he collects the 6 Infinity Gems, each controlling a fundamental aspect of existence: time, space, reality, power, mind, and soul. With all 6 mounted on the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos becomes unstoppable. In a single silent moment, he snaps his fingers, and half of all life in the universe ceases to exist. Heroes vanish, planets go dark, and the cosmos trembles. But death remains unimpressed, and Thanos, despite his unimaginable power, grows unstable. What follows is a desperate counter-offensive. Earth's remaining heroes, led by Adam Warlock, Doctor Strange, and a resurrected Silver Surfer, launch a frontal assault. They are joined by cosmic entities like Galactus, Eternity, and Chaos and Order, each hoping to strip Thanos of godhood. Yet none can match his might. It is not until Thanos, in a moment of arrogance, abandons his physical form to become one with the universe itself, that his grip loosens. Nebula seizes the gauntlet and rewinds time. Warlock eventually claims the gauntlet himself, ending the carnage and restoring the universe. Thanos, presumed dead, survives, having learned that omnipotence brings only isolation. In the aftermath, he finds peace, retiring to a quiet farm under the stars. Infinity Gauntlet remains one of Marvel's most cataclysmic and philosophical epics, an exploration of obsession, mortality, and the terrifying burden of limitless power. It is the war where half the universe died and was also reborn. Secret Wars 2015 was not merely a crossover, it was the death and rebirth everything Marvel had ever built. Orchestrated by the Beyonders, the collapse began with a sinister plan: embed a version of Molecule Man into every universe, each one designed to detonate at the same moment. One by one, entire realities were wiped out through multiversal incursions, cataclysmic events where Earths collided and only one could survive. As worlds perished, even the greatest heroes and villains could only delay the inevitable. But one man found a way to challenge destiny: Doctor Doom. Joining forces with Molecule Man and Doctor Strange, Doom confronted the Beyonders directly and seized their power. From the ashes of the multiverse, he crafted Battleworld, a patchwork planet forged from fragments of dead realities. As God Emperor Doom, he ruled it with absolute authority. Time became meaningless. 8 years passed under his iron reign, enforced by an army of alternate universe Thors. Memory of the old worlds faded, and only a few knew the truth of what had come before. Everything changed when survivors from the incursion event, including Reed Richards, T'Challa, and Miles Morales, resurfaced. As cracks formed in Doom's perfect world, the truth about his stolen godhood emerged. Molecule Man, the true source of Doom's power, waited beneath the capital Doomstad. In their final confrontation, Reed challenged Doom not with strength, but with logic and humility. In admitting Reed was the better man, Doom lost his hold on godhood. Molecule Man transferred his vast cosmic power to Reed, and from there, the multiverse was reborn. Secret Wars ended not with destruction, but with hope. The beginning of new realities, one world at a time, rebuilt by the very people who once watched their universes burn. The Annihilation event began like a cosmic nightmare with no prelude, no diplomacy, no mercy. From the depths of the negative zone, Annihilation launched the Annihilation Wave, a vast and relentless swarm that consumed everything in its path. The Kiln, an ancient intergalactic prison, was the first to fall, wiped from existence in the opening onslaught. The Nova Corps stood their ground on Xander, but in moments they were extinct. Only one survivor remained, Richard Rider. Fused with the World Mind, he became the last Nova, carrying the full weight of a fallen empire. Drax the Destroyer, reborn in a leaner, deadlier form, joined Rider alongside Cammy, Quasar, in a ragtag alliance of warriors across the stars. Yet their resistance was nothing compared to what they faced. Entire empires were consumed. Gods and cosmic titans resurfaced. Aegis and Tenebris, ancient beings cast out long ago, returned to reclaim their power. Even Galactus, Devourer of Worlds, was captured and weaponized. As the universe burned, unlikely allegiances formed. Thanos, always with his own agenda, sided with Annihilation and betrayed the cosmos. The Silver Surfer returned to Galactus' service, only to witness his master turned into a bomb of devastation. Ronan the Accuser fought for justice and was betrayed by his own kind. The Super Skrull, hardened by loss, waged a one-man war for vengeance. In the end, it wasn't a grand plan that shattered the Annihilation Wave, it was fury. Drax killed Thanos. Nova confronted Annihilation and tore his essence apart. The swarm fell silent. The war ended. But this was no victory, only a fragile, exhausted survival. The galaxy had changed, forever scarred by genocide and silence. In the void that remained, a new era would rise, but not without remembering the horror that came from the shadows. Infinity began with a warning from the stars, then came the fire. The Builders, ancient architects of the universe, declared Earth a fracture point and launched an unstoppable armada to erase it from existence. They moved like gods of death, their Alephists and world killers reducing civilizations to ash. The Avengers, outmatched and scattered, allied with the Galactic Council in a last-ditch effort to halt the cosmic tide. But the Council's ambush at the corridor was a trap. They never stood a chance. In minutes, a third of their forces were gone, and Earth's protectors were captured or left stranded in space. Hope was buried beneath the rubble of fallen worlds. Refugees fled to the Ringworld Behemoth, only to be slaughtered by another Builder's strike. 40 million lives lost in moments. The Builders didn't want conquest, they wanted a purge, and their target was Earth. In the darkness of interstellar war, Captain America emerged not just as a soldier, but as a strategist, offering the last sliver of resistance a fighting chance. But against an enemy that shaped galaxies, even that might not be enough. The fate of the universe would be decided not in grand battles, but in survival. House of M is not just a story, it's a psychic rupture in the Marvel Universe, a war fought in the mind and written in the DNA of reality itself. After suffering unbearable loss and grief, Wanda Maximoff spirals into madness. Her powers, capable of altering the very structure of existence, begin to fray the universe. Fearing the collapse of reality, the Avengers and X-Men came together to face a grim decision. Should Wanda be stopped permanently? Before they can act, Wanda reshapes the world. In an instant, Earth is reborn into the House of M, a utopia where mutants rule, humans are the minority, and every hero lives their heart's desire. Spider-Man is married to Gwen Stacy, Steve Rogers is an old man who lived a full life, Magneto is king. Everyone is content except Wolverine, whose memories remain untouched. He knows this world is a lie. With the help of Layla Miller, a young girl who can awaken people to the truth, Wolverine begins gathering allies who remember the real world. As their numbers grow, the illusion begins to fracture. And in that fracture lies a secret. Quicksilver, Wanda's brother, was the one who convinced her to remake reality, not Magneto. He did it out of love, hoping to save his sister and their family. Wanda, shattered by the pain she's caused and the impossible expectations placed on her, utters 3 words that echo through history: no more mutants. With that, she reshapes reality once more, depowering over 90% of the world's mutants overnight. House of M ends not in triumph, but in sorrow. A universe restored, but forever changed. A war without winners. Necrosha is a resurrection war that transforms the afterlife into a battleground, where death itself is twisted into a weapon. At its core is Selene, the immortal sorceress and former Black Queen of the Hellfire Club, who plots to ascend to godhood by harvesting souls. To do so, she infects Gauntlet's mass grave with the techno-organic virus, reanimating millions of dead mutants, including former heroes, villains, and long-forgotten threats. What follows is not a reunion, it's a nightmare. Utopia, Mir Island, and beyond are suddenly overrun by the dead. Fallen friends return with blank stares, and killing in their veins. The X-Men and X-Force are forced into brutal confrontations with the ghost of their past. The crisis escalates when Selene accidentally resurrects Proteus, a reality-warping entity far more dangerous than any corpse. Destiny 2 returns, warning of cataclysms yet to come. As the X-Men struggle on multiple fronts, Selene amasses power by absorbing the life force of her victims, culminating in a horrifying ritual that elevates her into a death goddess atop the ruins of Gauntlet, now renamed Necrosha. But even godhood has a cost. Betrayed by her own inner circle, Selene meets her end at the hands of Warpath, who drives a mystical dagger, once gifted to her, straight through the heart. The war ends, but its scars linger. X-Force is left shattered and haunted, while the line between life and death in the mutant world grows thinner than ever. Necrosha isn't just a horror story, it's a brutal reminder that the past never stays buried, and resurrection always demands a price. Time Runs Out wasn't just a crisis, it was the death of everything the Avengers believed in. In the shadow of cosmic annihilation, friendship shattered, ideals withered, and Earth's mightiest heroes became something darker. 8 months after Captain America discovered the Illuminati's secret universe-destroying mission, trust was gone. Tony Stark and Reed Richards became fugitives. Black Panther and Namor were enemies. And Namor, desperate to save something, formed the Cabal, a ruthless team including Thanos, Maximus, and Terex, who destroyed entire worlds to delay the inevitable. Meanwhile, Roberto da Costa, also known as Sunspot, quietly brought AIM and turned it into a force for good, building a resistance team that probed the truth behind the incursions. Universes crashing into one another, with only one Earth surviving each collision. As multiversal war waged in secret, Dr. Doom and Molecule Man uncovered a terrifying truth. The Beyonders had seeded a Molecule Man in every universe, each a ticking time bomb. Their plan wasn't chaos, it was total deletion. With every Molecule Man Doom killed, reality crumbled faster. Hope flickered, then vanished. Heroes stopped fighting to win, they fought to escape. Reed Richards, Black Panther, and a handful of others built a lifeboat to survive the end of all things. On the final day, as Earth 616 in the Ultimate Universe collided in the last incursion, Iron Man and Captain America died fighting each other while the world dissolved around them. From the ashes, only Dr. Doom remained, armed with power stolen from the Beyonders, ready to play God. Time Runs Out marked the end of the Marvel Universe as it had been known for decades. Everything fell, but in the fall, the foundation was laid for something new. something forged in the fires of betrayal, sacrifice, and the final ticking seconds of existence. King in Black was not just a battle, it was an extinction-level event dressed in symbiote skin. When the sky cracked and turned black, it wasn't a metaphor. Null, the eldritch god who created the symbiotes before the dawn of time, had arrived. He brought with him an endless swarm of symbiote dragons and 2 reanimated celestials, puppets of darkness twisted into cosmic weapons. Earth's defenses crumbled within hours. Magic failed. Technology collapsed. Heroes were corrupted. The entire planet was suffocating beneath a sky that bled shadow. Null wasn't out for conquest. He was after silence. Silence of the stars. Silence of the Hive. And at the heart of it all stood Eddie Brock. Broken, nearly killed, and stripped of venom, Eddie was just a man again. But Null wasn't the only one with a link to the symbiote hive. Eddie's son Dylan had a raw, undefined connection to the Void, one that even Null feared. As Dylan used his power to free heroes from Null's control, a flicker of rebellion sparked. Thor clashed with the god of the Abyss, striking with divine fury. The Silver Surfer arrived, wielding pure light as a sword. Still, none of it was enough. Not until Eddie, dead but not done, was resurrected by the Enigma Force, a cosmic power known as the God of Light. Transformed into the ultimate host, Eddie rose as the new King in Black. No longer hunted by the darkness, he was its master. In the final clash, Eddie didn't just kill Null, he erased him. Not with rage, but with a power that brought dawn to the longest night. Age of Ultron wasn't just a war, it was a haunting vision of how the world ends when technology wins. Ultron, the artificial intelligence created by Hank Pym, finally reaches his dark potential by taking over Earth with a ruthless mechanical precision. Cities fall in hours, heroes are hunted down, and even the Avengers find themselves helpless. The sky goes dark, and the world becomes a graveyard of twisted metal and silent screams. But this isn't just a story of defeat, it's a story of desperation. Faced with Annihilation, Wolverine and the Invisible Woman travel back in time to kill Hank Pym before he can create Ultron. It works, but the consequences are catastrophic. Their actions shatter timelines. Magic collapses in one world. In another, a totalitarian Tony Stark rules what's left. The more they try to fix, the more they break. Eventually, they realize that erasing Ultron's creation is not the answer. Instead, they help Hank Pym design a subtle countermeasure, planting a failsafe inside Ultron's very code. Ultron is stopped in the present, but the damage to the timeline is already done. Cracks in the multiverse widen, altering cosmic watchers like Immortus, the Time Variance Authority, and others to the growing instability. This moment, this desperate act to stop a machine, plants the seed for future catastrophes like Secret Wars and Time Runs Out. Age of Ultron ends not with a clean victory, but with a chilling realization. The greatest threat wasn't Ultron, it was the hero's willingness to destroy time itself to fix their mistakes. And from that broken timeline, far darker threats begin to rise. Curse of the Mutants was a war soaked in blood and betrayal, a supernatural ambush that brought the undead crashing into the mutant world. It began with horror. A vampire bomber detonated in the heart of San Francisco, splattering infected blood across a crowd and killing dozens in broad daylight. But this wasn't random, it was the first strike in a planned assault. At the helm was Xeris, Dracula's ambitious son, who had killed his father and unified the fractured vampire clans under one brutal vision: conquer mutants and weaponize their powers through vampiric infection. His first target was Jubilee. The former X-Men was abducted and transformed into a vampire to bait the X-Men into his trap. Cyclops, facing a threat unlike any before, made a decision that shocked even his allies. He resurrected Dracula, hoping the fallen lord would take vengeance on his treacherous son. Meanwhile, Blade joined the fight, lending his expertise and edge to a conflict that was as much about survival as it was about moral compromise. Jubilee's struggle became the emotional heart of the war. Could she be saved, or had they already lost her? As the X-Men stormed Xeris' stronghold, and Dracula reclaimed his throne, the larger battle came into focus. This wasn't just a vampire war, it was a test of identity. The idea that mutants, so often persecuted and feared, could now become literal monsters sent a chilling ripple through their ranks. In the end, Xeris fell, but the curse didn't end. Jubilee remained a vampire. The undead were now part of the Marvel landscape, and the question remained: how do you fight something that lives inside the ones you love? Messiah Complex was the war that reignited hope, and nearly destroyed the mutant race in the process. In a world where no mutants had been born since the decimation of the X gene, a miracle occurred. The first mutant child since M-Day was born in Alaska. What should have been a moment of celebration instead became a blood-soaked scramble for control. Every major mutant faction, from the X-Men to the Marauders, the Purifiers, the Acolytes, and even the time-traveling Cable, converged on the child, each with their own belief about what she represented: hope, weapon, savior, threat. This was it, the moment that fractured the X-Men and exposed the desperation of a species on the brink of extinction. Cyclops unleashed a strike team known as X-Force to act with deadly precision, while Wolverine, Storm, and Nightcrawler hunted leads across continents. Meanwhile, Cable fled into the future with the child, believing her to be the Messiah. But he wasn't the only one. Bishop believed she would cause a future apocalypse, and made it his mission to kill her, turning from ally to would-be assassin. Messiah Complex wasn't just a war for a child, it was a war for the soul of mutant kind. Mystique betrayed the X-Men, Gambit joined the Marauders, and Professor Xavier was shot and left for dead. In the end, Cyclops disbanded the X-Men entirely, recognizing that their traditional methods were no longer enough. The war gave birth to a new era, one where moral lines were blurred, where mutants had to fight fire with fire. The child, named Hope, would be carried forward by Cable into the future, but the scars of the conflict remained. Civil War was the war that shattered the superhero community from within. It wasn't sparked by an alien invasion or a cosmic threat, but by fear, politics, and tragedy. After a battle in Stamford led to the deaths of hundreds, including children, the United States government demanded accountability. The Superhuman Registration Act was passed, forcing heroes to reveal their identities and operate under state control. And just like that, the Avengers were no more. This was it, the moment friends became enemies, and the line between justice and oppression blurred beyond recognition. Tony Stark, haunted by guilt, championed registration, believing oversight was the only way to protect lives. Steve Rogers saw it differently, a violation of freedom and a path toward tyranny. As Iron Man and Captain America formed opposing armies, every hero was forced to choose a side. Families fractured, alliances crumbled, and the streets became battlefields. Civil War wasn't just about laws, it was about trust, fear, and the price of heroism. Spider-Man unmasked on national television, exposing himself to the world. The Fantastic Four split down the middle. The government weaponized villains to hunt down the unregistered. And in a dark twist, Stark unleashed a clone version of Thor, whose rampage led to the death of Goliath, proof that this war had already gone too far. In the end, Captain America surrendered, not because he was defeated, but because he saw what the war had done to ordinary people. Heroes were no longer symbols of hope, they were threats. Steve Rogers chose to stop fighting, only to be assassinated shortly after, leaving a broken legacy behind. Secret Invasion wasn't about political ideologies or interdimensional collapse, it was about trust. For years, the shape-shifting alien Skrulls had infiltrated Earth, replacing key figures across the Marvel Universe, including heroes, politicians, and even S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives. Their plan was to conquer Earth from the inside, not with armies, but with deception so flawless, no one knew who to believe. When Elektra was killed in battle and reverted to her Skrull form, it was the terrifying confirmation. The invasion had already begun. Paranoia spread like wildfire. Could Iron Man be a Skrull? What about Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, or even Spider-Woman? Heroes began turning on each other, second-guessing every ally, every mission. Nick Fury returned from exile, forming his own team of unregistered young operatives, while the remaining Avengers splintered, divided between those who trusted in S.H.I.E.L.D. and those who no longer believed in any system at all. As the Skrulls launched a full-scale invasion, their sleeper agents activated across the globe, throwing the world into chaos. Savage Land became ground zero for a Skrull ambush. New York City turned into a battlefield. Skrull imposters wielded impossible powers. Their queen, posing as Spider-Woman, had manipulated events for months, even steering the Avengers from within. But Earth's resistance held. Heroes, villains, and even gods banded together in a last stand against the invaders. In the end, it was Norman Osborn, not a superhero, who delivered the killing blow to the Skrull Queen, instantly turning public favor toward him and setting the stage for a new era. Secret Invasion was not just about who the enemy was, it was about how easily they became us. Fear itself was the war that didn't just challenge the Avengers' strength, it tested the world's courage. When an ancient evil known as the Serpent, the true Allfather and long-lost brother of Odin, returned to reclaim his throne, Earth fell under a dark wave of terror unlike anything before. His weapon wasn't just destruction, it was fear itself, magnified and weaponized through mystical hammers that fell from the sky, each one transforming those who lifted into godlike monsters, the worthy. Juggernaut became Korth, breaker of stone. Hulk became Null, breaker of worlds. Even heroes like Thing were twisted into brutal avatars of chaos. Cities burned, Asgard abandoned Earth, and faith in the Avengers cracked under the weight of global panic. Every blow dealt wasn't just physical, it fractured morale, confidence, and hope. The Serpent fed on this fear, growing stronger with each passing hour. Thor disobeyed Odin's retreat and fought valiantly, even slaying two of the worthy in a desperate stand. Captain America took on the front lines with a broken shield, rallying soldiers who had no reason to believe they'd survive. Meanwhile, Iron Man made the ultimate gamble, sacrificing his sobriety and offering up a piece of his soul to the dwarves of Nidavellir in exchange for enchanted weapons, forged in the fire of gods, capable of standing against the Serpent's might. In the final battle, it was not just strength but unity, sacrifice and defiance in the face of despair that won the day. Thor delivered the fatal blow to the Serpent, but at the cost of his own life. And even in victory, the world remained shaken. Fear itself wasn't just about monsters or gods, it was about what happens when fear rules, and how heroes rise not because they are unafraid, but because they choose to stand anyway. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on any of the Marvel wars I discussed in this video, and subscribe if you would like to see a part 2 or more videos like this one. Thank you again, and goodbye.